Hey, everybody. It's Sam Jacobs. Welcome to Topline Spotlight. You know Topline Spotlight. We go deep on one pressing business challenge or obstacle with a key figure, a leading figure in the go-to-market space in the B2B tech community. It's a short segment. We've got my co-host, AJ Bruno, the CEO of QuotaPath, Asad Zaman, the CEO of Sales Talent Agency. And today we're joined by Alon Talmor. Alon, welcome to Topline Spotlight.
Hey, pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We're excited to have you. So we want to start by getting to know you a little bit. So tell us a little bit about your background and tell us about your company, Ask.ai, and then we'll dive into, a challenge that you've tackled recently.
Perfect. So yeah, quickly, I'm a second timer. First was sold to Salesforce.com. 2012, we opened kind of the Tel Aviv office. I was chief data scientist there. 2015, my vesting ended and I went to do something a little bit strange for an entrepreneur. I went to do a PhD in the field of AI and NLP. I was a professor coming back from Stanford to kind of lead the NLP efforts in Tel Aviv University. And we were fortunate enough to see this whole evolution of Gen AI unfolding. Back then, 2016, there was no Gen AI. But thesis was around reasoning for question answering. That's essentially what ChatGPT does. And so we were fortunate enough to see the revolution unfolding into 2020. When my PhD ended, we realized that something big is going to happen in industry, not just academia. So we opened Ask.ai, but not with the goal of becoming a foundational model company like OpenAI or Anthropic, but actually a solutions company in the field of AI. 2020, there was no Gen AI yet. Only 2 years later, it was coming with ChatGPT, the big hype that we see right now. And so we were looking for a real use case in which AI can help. And we find that B2B customer experience was actually a very good one. People think about customer experience as my website and my product, but in B2B, it's every customer touch point. So it's everything from sales, success, support, and even goes all the way to legal and security sometimes and product. And so helping them with knowledge, bringing all the knowledge into one place and providing answer, providing a customer 360, providing better Slack answers and reducing time for answers for customers. These are all things that Ask.ai does today. So that's a quick gist about us. Yeah.
I love it. And just a little bit more about the company and then we'll dive in. But so you've raised some capital. Where are you based? How many employees? And you mentioned that there's like a bunch of different, I don't know if what you just referenced are features or like the entire suite of products. But when you purchase Ask.ai, what are you purchasing?
Sure. So we're almost Series B company, raised about 20-something million. We started 2021, mid-end 2021. We're about 50 employees. We're based in Tel Aviv and Toronto. Go-to-market is in Toronto. And in terms of the full suite, so we're like a post-AI company, meaning we built our whole platform bottom up from AI. And so we start with a insights and diagnostic suite that shows you what's happening with your customers from the support, success, tickets, calls perspective. And we have a pretty thorough insights solutions. Then we have an assistant, AI assistant, that helps you and the employees and even helps the customers externally with chatbots. And we connect to all your company data. So yeah, it's a pretty thorough and end-to-end platform. That is the offering today.
Awesome.
Alon, do you find that a lot of the challenge that you have in your market is just differentiation in the noise of like what your product actually does versus all of the other AI companies out there?
Yeah, so there's obviously a lot of noise, but actually the amount of real solutions out there that solve real internal problems is actually not so huge when you think about it. There's only few companies that actually provide measurable value with AI. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges. So a lot of companies are today experimenting with AI. And when you ask them the tough question, have you been able to prove value with AI? Only few are able to say yes. It's not the same. Our employees use AI sometimes and it's great. But when push comes to shove and they ask the CFO, okay, so what's the ROI? It's extremely hard to say. And so even though there's a lot of noise in this field and everyone has like an additional add-on with AI, when company go to actually buy AI, they start realizing that the solutions that are out there that really provide value are actually limited.
Do you feel like there's an upfront consultative service then that you're providing? Is that done before the sale, or is that done like after post sale as well?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. We actually connect to a lot of C-levels. Today, companies, especially B2B ones, we're targeting mid-market, somewhere between 500 and 5,000 employees. So these tend to have these AI communities and AI committees, and the board tends to be involved and the executive team tends to be involved. And specific stakeholders tend to not just buy AI, but the whole company is kind of thinking about it all the way to the CIO or COO. And so, yeah, a lot of our initial cycle is actually connecting to the C-level and educating them about how to evaluate AI, maybe diagnostic about what's going on in your company right now. You really know like frictions that you have in your Slack. How many questions do you have that are actually answerable and just noise? How many questions can you really provide the customer? What's the situation with your company knowledge? AI really needs that in order to work correctly. So yeah, we provide a lot of insights before we start.
Alon, you made an early stage hire that I thought was exceptional, which is Josh Solomon as your VP of sales. And I love Josh. I've known Josh and I both used to sell technology at the Best Buy of Canada. And so we have that similarity. He's
the Best Buy of Canada. Can we talk? Did that just what is the Best Buy of Canada?
It was called Future Shop. The good thing about Future Shop was it would pay its salespeople a commission. So all the gangsters went there and all the people went to Best Buy. So Josh and I were at Future Shop. But he's an extremely curious person. Was that something that you were solving for upfront with the first batch of hires you were making across the organization, but especially in your commercial team, because you had this view that the sales process is now shifting where the conversations upfront are slightly more comprehensive and consultative and value driven than we've ever had to do before?
Totally. So Josh is I totally agree. One of our amazing hires. He's leading our revenue in Toronto. He kind of built the revenue team there. He actually is very technical as well. He comes from a company named Ada. And that is kind of a chatbot, conversational AI company. And so he's very educated in how to solve for value, how to solve for customer support, which is one of the main value drivers in AI. And that's actually one of the first buyers that we tend to start our conversations with. And we now understand the value of value selling in AI. Trying to understand what the real pains are that we can really measure ROI with AI. And so his kind of perspective is driving that as well. And we're hiring value consultants as well, and people that really help the customers understand what value they can bring from AI. Because
you don't see value consultants at a Series A company regularly. That's interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like something out of IBM, right? But the reality is that this is where we think the market is shifting with AI. So CIOs now want to buy AI for the whole company. They find themselves needing to pay something between $200,000 and almost $500,000 a year. CFO comes in and say, okay, so I expect to see $5 million in return. Prove that to me. And so that becomes a huge problem. So you need to think about creative ways. I'll give just some examples for our audience here. Support is an obvious one. If you have roles that have some measurable that is repetitive, like how many tickets can I do a day? Then if you can increase that measurable value, you can actually find an equivalent for full-time employees there. And that's actual money ROI. The same for success. Like success people tend to have 20 high touch companies, the accounts they follow, or sometimes more. But if you're able to make them more efficient and be able to tackle more accounts, then you can hire less, or you can save full-time employees as you grow. So these are kind of full-time employees, but there's other ways to measure. Typically, with are
there any mythical use cases? Any things where people often cite a use case, but in your work you haven't been able to demonstrate that it is
for sure
ROI accretive?
Enterprise search. So there's a lot of high-tech companies all the way And
When you say enterprise search, you're talking about like enterprise documentation,
clean
basically
type
being
of
the system of
company.
record for an enterprise.
yeah, so bringing all the knowledge into one place and just enabling search. It's a valuable use case. The problem is proving that value. So, the common denominator for AI is productivity. Productivity is not a great word. Like, how would you measure that? You would measure pretty much time saved, but it's pretty much a guess. And so if I query an enterprise search, how much time do I get back? What do I do with that time? Do I go drink coffee? So it's not obvious the real return on investment. And so if I'm a CIO and I need to buy a company-wide enterprise search for $500,000, it's really hard to justify that. What my company really gets. And I'm predicting that you will see, even though it's very hypey, you will see a little bit of a retention challenge there.
In enterprise sales, they have this concept of above the power line and below the power line. And to your point, to agree with you, strategic pain, financial pain, political pain, cultural pain, basically things that are the concern of the CEO's office. Those are things that you can create budget for, but productivity gains are often quite hard to create budget for because they're freeing up time for people that are the least important people in the organization a lot of the time. So saving somebody 20 minutes a day that is in the bowels of the organization often isn't appealing or interesting unless there's a strategic priority like from Klarna, like we're replacing this function with AI, it's a strategic imperative. We'll worry about the ROI later. So just to your point.
Just to push back on that, wouldn't revenue per employee be the measure of productivity, and hence the fact that something is driving productivity would be
very lagging to prove. And you would need to wait a long time and have an extreme amount of adoption of AI. So in order to really, like for enterprise search, to really improve productivity, you need people to use it 10 times a day, 20 times a day. And maybe that will move the needle a little bit in the revenue so you actually see it,
That's interesting.
And just productivity will show up in margin, probably not in revenue. So it'll be like profit per employee as opposed to revenue. Because we're not in growth at any cost anymore, Asid. It's about profitable.
Yes, we are. No, we're back. We're back. Yeah. Alon, can we talk about something where I have a bone to pick, which is engineering productivity? And we had Tomas Tungas on a show a month ago, and he said one of his founders had like a 30% productivity gain for their engineering team, and they don't need to hire any engineers. And then he messaged him afterwards, like, hey, I'd love to talk to that founder. And then he messaged me back. He said, oh, that founder's too busy. They're hiring too many people, which I also thought was hilarious. He literally said that.
Yeah, there's a lot of hype around that,
Did he
right?
say they're hiring too many people?
Yeah, he said their headcount is growing too fast, so the productivity gains.
Oh my God, that's so great.
He is such a bitter guy. I love this.
I had a board meeting yesterday and I asked my board, this is Insight Partners and Tribe Capital, like HubSpot Ventures. I was like, who has their teams, on their engineering teams, are like actually seeing these productivity gains? And none of them. And our team uses Cursor, fine, and I can talk about that. But like, okay, where are these teams that are getting 30 to 40% on the engineers and they don't need to hire
extremely hard to prove. First of all, you need to prove ROI, you need to agree on two things. On a measurable that everyone agrees on. That's, by the way, one of the difficulties for it. So the enterprise search, I can't agree how much time it saved me. It's hard to agree on that. And then agree on what the value is in money. And with engineering, you have a problem with both. So what's the measurable, right? How do you measure productivity in engineering? Because do you measure deployments, PRs? What do you measure them exactly?
Lines of code, actually. I'm a very lines of code guy.
Lines of code.
How many words in your code base?
I'm kidding.
I saw a CIO saying measure how many line codes are created with it, but then they created with AI, and we know that AI is very verbose. So maybe it just created BS lines, a lot of nines we don't need. So is that real, right? So it's really hard to measure that. And so I would challenge, even if we say 30% more productive in what? How would you measure that? And I think it's a lot of hype BS to say that we don't need any more engineers. That's it. AI is doing everything for us. The one thing AI can do for you is if you're building bottom up with AI, you actually don't need certain components in your product, like a lot of forms. And so that will save you time, but from the product perspective, actually not from the productivity perspective. So that in that I
Maybe the
believe,
other
and we see
company
that
would
on
be
ourselves.
Salesforce, right?
Sorry.
'Cause Salesforce claimed they'll not be hiring any more engineers anymore this year because of AI.
Until next year.
Yeah.
Well, they'll have to
Alon
hire
doesn't
a
know
lot,
anything
right?
about Salesforce. How long did you stay with Salesforce after your company was bought?
3 years. I love
Yeah.
Salesforce, but it's a big company. It's a very different culture. We were also one of the first actually dev center outside of San Francisco and the Valley. And that was a little bit challenging to kind of work across seas, be far from Mark and stuff like that.
Can I ask, we're almost at the end of our time together alone, but I want to get like a hot take. Obviously everybody has them. So tell us, what do you see playing out over the next, 12, 24 months in the field of AI? What do you think is going to catch on? Maybe it's to your point, like ROI, use cases and customer support. What's not going to catch on? Where do you see the industry evolving over the next couple of, it's changing so quickly that there's probably like modalities or workflows or workloads today that are going to be wiped out quickly. So
Yeah.
where do you see the industry going?
I think AI productivity is going to become table stakes, but costs would go down. It's going to become a commodity, like these kind of enterprise search stuff. What you would really see is that the value adds like ROI positive use cases would be the ones that would really prevail. It doesn't have to be in customer support. It could be for every stakeholder. You can either measure something or really prove ROI. You would see things that are measurable, but not entirely ROI. For instance, in the customer experience, how long is my customer waiting? How can I really understand my customer, like customer 360? Things that are related to experience, but not entirely ROI or lagging, but you would see more of those coming in, more insights kind of products coming in. And you would even see people starting to treat Slack as something that is measurable. Like how many questions are Slack can I save? How much is my customer waiting for questions to be answered in Slack that came from customer support or success? You would see more of those. So things that are more measurable and things that are more ROI driven would be the ones that would actually be the AI that companies buy. And the rest would become something that the cost would just go down because it would be really hard to justify the cost. And when you have something like that, it becomes like a nice to have. And then you go for 30K deals no matter what size of company you're selling to. Because that typically nice to have SaaS solutions go for 30K to 50K because then you don't need to justify the budget.
I love that. We're the last thing we want to ask you before how to buy your thing and how to purchase Ask.ai and get in touch is, what's a book you've read, a piece of content that's inspired you, a podcast you've listened to, someone you think we should follow? In the universal marketplace of ideas, what are some that you think we should latch onto?
That's a great question because most of the people I listen to are still caught up with the hype. It's extremely hard to find people that say that this is actually hype and we're changing direction right now. So Satya Nadella said something really interesting, and I think Microsoft is actually, even though they're still caught up in the hype, he's thinking correctly about that. So I listened to more of what he say. One thing he said is about consolidation. So one way we didn't discuss that yet to prove ROI with AI is actually consolidating tools. There's a lot of point solutions in SaaS that would actually be consolidated with AI solutions and new kind of SaaS AI companies. And he said that, and I want to point out listening to that specific talk that he had about AI consolidating SaaS.
Awesome. If folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best way? How can we learn more about Ask.ai?
Oh, so first of all, the website itself, ask-ai.com. So we weren't able to buy yet Ask.ai, but that would come in the future. So it's ask-ai.com. And then you can quickly book a demo or just contact me, Alon at ask.ai.com.
And Alon has some great YouTube, LinkedIn content as well. Which
okay, cool.
Well, yeah, follow me on LinkedIn. I'd love to chat there as well.
I'll head there right now. Thank you very much. Alon, thanks for coming on Topline Spotlight. Congrats on the success. We're excited to cheer you on.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for having me.